Hi, I'm Dix Astro Coach. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the astrological overview for the month of August, hot steamy August, or cool and slower down in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's for 2021. And first of all, before I start, I would like to say thank you so much to those of you who have recently chosen to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me here. I really value your presence here. If you haven't subscribed and would like to, I'd really love that too. So please click on the subscribe button or icon, word, and also there's a little bell icon, and if you click on that you get notified of when I upload new content, when my tech guy uploads new content. And also, if you would like to have a one-to-one astro coaching session with me, please check out my beautiful new website created by my lovely web designer and artistic lady who does all my artwork. So check that out. It's a nice site. I'm really super pleased with it. So okay, let's look at August. First of all, I want to say, how are you faring this summer with all the, still quite uncertain kind of way of living that we're enduring? Because it's quite interesting, because August has 4 of the outer planets retrograde at the beginning. And another one, Uranus, joins those 4 on the 20th to go into a retrograde motion. So we start the month with both Jupiter, newly arrived back from Pisces in Aquarius, and Saturn, who is in Aquarius. Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts, so they're in a retrograde motion. Pluto, who transforms, is in Capricorn. Pluto is retrograde. Neptune, who can create illusions, smoke screens, and all kinds of interesting things like that. Neptune is retrograde in Pisces. And then, as I said earlier, Uranus, our planet of surprise, amongst other things, turns retrograde on the 20th. First of all, I thought it would be really helpful to just explain a little bit about what retrograde motion means, because in a sense, from our viewpoint here, it's like an optical illusion. So, because the planets don't actually stop and go backwards. And what happens is, because all the planets operate on a different orbit from the sun, so you've got Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, etc., as we get to the outer planets. So whilst Earth is on its orbit and it reaches the point where, say, Saturn is on its orbit, now Saturn is that much further away, so even though it's still going forwards, Earth goes past it. So Saturn appears to stop, slow down, and go backwards. But they're still actually going at the same speed. You can test this out in a car. If you're on a motorway or a highway, and you are going at the same speed as a car in the other lane, and you just go further ahead, the other car drops back, and you're going in the same direction, but from your vantage point, it looks as if that car has moved backwards. And then eventually, it's just for a moment, you can see that it's still moving forwards. So I hope that kind of helps to explain it a little bit. You know, there's a very good website which has a lot of astronomy and information in really easy to follow terms about how the solar system works. It's called earthsky.org. I often dip in and out of that because it is a very helpful website for how all the cosmic bodies work. And as you know, as I've said before, astrology needs to be preceded by astronomy. Astronomers might not agree, but actually to be in astrology, you have to have a basic knowledge, at least, of astronomy. Okay, so let's move on to what is happening this month. In some ways, I think with this slowdown of the planets, it's about changing our perspective. We're in Leo season until the 23rd. So we've got this fixed fiery energy, which, you know, in some ways ignites our creative passions. You know, even if you're in the Southern Hemisphere in winter, roaring fires and, you know, nice kind of cozy evenings. So there's a lot about Leo season, which is creative. It's a time also for fun and for play. But are we going to get any of that with these retrograde planets? Well, yes, I think we will. And certainly until the 23rd, when the sun moves into Virgo, which will bring in a much more kind of reflective and flexible energy. But, you know, these retrograde planets are giving us a golden opportunity to reflect, regroup, and actually look at how much we've achieved in the last few months. I think it's a really good time to think about what you need to let go of to allow the new to come in. By moving with the flow of this energy, then we'll be ready to embrace our individual futures and our collective future when the outer planets begin to go direct again in October. So, as I said, for the first couple of weeks, we've got the sun moving through Leo, and the sun is going to be making a hard aspect. That's a square. So it's making a square, which is a hard, tough, challenging aspect to Uranus, our planet of the unexpected and surprise, amongst other things. It can be explosions, it can be sudden change, unexpected change, eruptions, earthquakes, all sorts of exciting things, as well as invention. So we've got this energy going on for the first kind of 2 weeks of August. And you see, Uranus wakes us up. The sun is our soul. It's our health, our life. So I think with this challenging energy, especially around the 7th, so that first week of August, I think we need to take time out and be mindful and kind to ourselves and each other. There's a sense that I know everything is moving towards opening up in many parts of the world, but I just think that it's still going to be a little bit stop-start. And we may find that we get quite rebellious reactions to authority, so that we can get drawn into kind of like stalemate situations of stubbornness. So I think the message for this first half of August is, in a sense, just stay cool. Now, on the 20th, as I said earlier, Uranus will turn retrograde in Taurus. Now, I think as it retraces its steps, we're going to see more volatility in the world economy, volatility in people in general, in wanting to get their views heard. So little eruptions of anger and rebellious behavior in various parts of the world, quite possibly. And because of this unpredictable element of Uranus, it's hard to see how its retrograde motion will really disrupt things. But also, you know, it's interesting, Uranus, because we could also see breakthroughs. breakthroughs in treatment, say for COVID or for cancer or for any other serious illness. And we might see breakthroughs for long COVID. And I think there'll also be breakthroughs with regard to the vaccines. And maybe they will develop an upgraded kind of super vaccine that you just need one shot of and can be taken every year, like with the flu vaccine, so that it promises relief from lockdowns later on. Now, we've got a new moon in Leo. So the new moon is always where the sun is, and that's on the 8th. And that moon is conjunct Mercury, our planet of communication. And that could help bring breakthroughs. But there's an opposition for that new moon from Saturn in Aquarius. So there is still a need for caution before we act too hastily. Now, I'll talk more about the new moon when I do my live new moon, which you know I do live on Facebook, so that will come during August, probably round about the 3rd or 4th. I always do it a few days before the actual lunar event. Now, around the 11th, Mercury is making an opposition to retrograde Jupiter in Pisces. Now, Mercury is communication, Jupiter expands things. I suspect we get misleading news, so that by the time Mercury actually comes up to make a good trine, which is a good aspect, to retrograde Pluto on the 26th, we could see more public figures falling from grace, let's put it that way. So watch the news. On a personal level, this energy, I think, asks you to be mindful of searching for supportive evidence before making sweeping statements or judgments. We always need to check our facts before we act. And this Uranian energy can make us a little bit, we speak before we think. But if you are mindful of that, then that route can avoid the tricky situations so that we can transform it into something positive. There's a full sturgeon moon on the 22nd, and that's in the very early degrees of Aquarius. No, it's not. It's in the late degrees of Aquarius. It's the July new moon that's in the early degrees. And this is also known as a blue moon. And this happens when we get 2 full moons in the same zodiac sign. So this full moon, interestingly, is conjunct Jupiter. And Jupiter expands everything. So this could be another quite intense full moon. So I think you need to be mindful of your emotions leading up to this full moon and meditate, as I said at the beginning, on how far you've come and on the opportunities that can present themselves, even if you can't sense what they may be yet. Then you can move confidently forward to manifest perhaps dreams you never thought were possible. So August is a month of steady progress, and if you're mindful to go at the speed that the divine is showing you, you can achieve a lot behind the scenes and sow those seeds that you want to manifest in the autumn. So now I'm going to let you listen to your individual zodiac signs. Thank you so much. Hi, Aries. Okay, so let's see how these retrograde planets this month are going to be affecting you. First of all, let's look at the area of your chart that is connected with hopes, wishes, projects, plans, larger groups of people, working with larger groups of people. this area of your chart has got both Saturn and Jupiter retrograde there. Now, I think that Jupiter is giving you an opportunity to look back at something you thought of doing, but you never actually got going. And it's giving you another chance to look at whether you can actually launch that now or in the near future, certainly in the autumn when these guys start going direct again. Saturn retrograde there, I think, is really just telling you to take it easy, slow down. Even if things seem a bit stuck and blocked, it will shift. It may not shift straight away, but please trust that, you know, as I often say, the divine has your back, and it will improve for you. Now, your 10th house, which is Capricorn, which is your career path and your kind of soul direction, if you like, has Pluto retrograde now. Now, I think there may be some endings that have may be coming into your life, or areas of your life that you need to close down and move on from. Don't worry about it, because with retrograde Neptune in Pisces, in your 12th house of the inner you and your psyche, this is giving you a chance to kind of take a step back, reflect, regroup, and move on and shine like only you can, Aries. There may be a few slowdowns also in the area of your chart that's connected with your kind of possessions and your financial situation. This won't be for long. It's just a chance to actually balance the books and see how you can make things a little bit more secure. And for the first 10 days of the month, Uranus, that's in this part of your chart, your 2nd house, is making a square, which is like that, which is quite a hard aspect, a challenging aspect, to the Sun and Mercury that are in Leo in your 5th house. Now, that's quite interesting, because it feels as if either there could be unexpected expenses, perhaps around the children, or things that you want to sort of initiate but can't get going yet. There may also be that it's something to do with a romantic partner that is kind of taking twists and turns, which leave you a little bit at 6s and 7s about the best way to move forward with this. It's only for the first 10 days. Then that Sun Mercury will move off there, and it'll just ease the whole situation, because Mercury, remember, is about communication. So you could be getting news which is tricky, which is difficult, but by mid-August, things will ease considerably. We have a new moon, and the new moon is in Leo. And I just couldn't quite find it in my notes. And it's in your 5th house, and it's on the 8th. Now, the new moon is going to give you a real new boost of energy. And I think it's a much needed boost. So look out for that new moon on the 8th, because it's really going to help you shift the energy a bit for you and move forward. This month's full moon is on the 22nd. It's a blue moon, and I think that's quite fortunate for you, Aries. It's a full sturgeon moon. It's in Aquarius, and that, of course, is, again, your 11th house of hopes and wishes and dreams. It's also conjunct retrograde Jupiter. You know, this is going to bring a wonderful opportunity, Aries, to really close a chapter on a part of your life that has been really quite troublesome. So I really think you need to, you know, you've been through a little bit of a challenging time, Aries. Don't worry, that is going to change. It will get better as we move towards the sort of the latter part of the year. So August is really a time to just sit with it, have faith, don't lose sight of you in this equation, and of actually your radiance and beauty, Aries, because, you know, normally you can be quite good at being sort of directional and knowing where you want to go. But I think the current energy has kind of made you feel a bit lost. That will change. That full moon, the blue moon on the 22nd, I think is really going to help you. And I will talk more about both the new moon and the full moon when I do the lives on Facebook. So you'll get a deeper sense and insight into the energies that we've got for those. Thank you, Aries, for joining me, and I will see you next time. Hi, Taurus, and this is for the Sun in Taurus or for the Ascendant. So let's see how, amongst other things, the retrograde planets are going to be affecting you this month. Saturn and Jupiter are in the area of your chart connected with your soul direction, your career path, and they are both retrograde there in Aquarius. So what this tells me is that there are things to do with your career path that perhaps you need to relook at and see how you can actually make them better. You're being given an opportunity, in a sense, to have a bit of a breather and reflect about the way you want to proceed forward. Are there changes that you want to make to the current sort of methods you use in your work, your sort of professional kind of image, or your public image, in a sense? Do you want to make changes to that? Do you know, how people see you, how you present yourself? And it's interesting because with Pluto retrograde in your 9th house, Capricorn, you may be going back to look at learning something that you perhaps had looked at before, but kind of put on the shelf and forgotten about. So you may be looking at learning, going back to learning something that is quite interesting for you, and it's quite a passion, which would actually be really quite transforming, and that would link in with perhaps a career income. Also, what's quite interesting is that the sort of Neptune retrograde in your 11th house, Pisces, kind of backs that up a bit, because it feels like you're looking back at a sort of an idea or a dream that you've had that of something you would really like to manifest. So it may be something about the need to do some personal self-development that will help you expand your knowledge and bring a depth and a kind of a real kind of meat, if you like, to the work you do that gives it much more breadth and depth and kind of 5-dimensional kind of oomph, more than perhaps it does at the moment. So think about what those other things that you could be doing to bring into that. Now, of course, we've got in your 1st house, in your sign, retrograde Uranus from the 20th. So I think you may be still going through some quite significant changes within you in how people experience you. And I think you're going to be surprising a few more people with some of the ways that you behave. And, you know, maybe you've been someone who sits and just kind of, you know, keeps quiet and toes the line. And that could change, because I think, you know, Taurus, Mr. Taurus or Miss Taurus or Mrs. Taurus wants to have her say. And especially, you know, the first 10 days of August, when Uranus is going to be squaring the Sun and Mercury in the area of your chart connected with your home life, Leo. And I think you could have a few choice words that you want to say, perhaps to family members, or maybe something has to happen that just clears the air a bit. It may just be that it's discussions about family members and changes that need to come about through that. The new moon is also in this area of your chart to do with the home and family, Leo on the 8th. So that is going to give you an opportunity to look at how your living conditions can change in a positive way. It's not necessarily something dramatic, but it can be a change of location, looking at moving, but it's also perhaps just making changes within the home, even if it's buying something that helps you feel a little bit more luxurious, or that it just suits your living space and where you are in your life better now. And then we have the full moon, which is a sturgeon moon, on the 22nd. In the area of your chart, it's Aquarius, connected with your soul direction again, conjunct Jupiter. Now this is a blue moon. And I always think blue moons. Now blue moons occur when we get 2 full moons in the same zodiac sign within the same time period. So the first full moon in Aquarius was at the end of July in Aquarius, the very early degrees of Aquarius. And this full moon is in the very final degree of Aquarius. So it's conjunct retrograde Jupiter. I do think this is going to bring something back into your life, which is an opportunity that perhaps didn't manifest or didn't happen, that could be quite sort of, well, quite surprise you really. And I think you'll be quite pleased about this unexpected or sudden opportunity that comes in. So all in all, Taurus, a rather interesting month. I think people better sit back and realise that Taurians are changing. Taurians are going to continue to change over the next few years whilst they are the host to the wonderful planet Uranus. So thank you so much for joining me this month, Taurus, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Hi, Gemini. This is for the Sun in Gemini or for the Ascendant. Well, how are you doing, Gemini? Because it's all been quite challenging for you, I think, over the last few months. And now we have these retrograde planets, and they are mostly, we've got the area of your chart connected with long distance travel, also higher learning and sort of learning and teaching and that area of your life. And both Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius are retrograde there. So how is this going to affect you? Well, my sense is that travel may actually happen. I think the fact that even though they've gone backwards, which sounds a bit of a misnomer, I actually think it's given you a chance to go back to something. So if you've been somewhere and you wanted to go back to it, then actually Jupiter in this part of your chart has given you the opportunity to go back somewhere. So that may be one area that is affected. Also in terms of learning, it can be going back to something one had perhaps picked up, perhaps during the lockdown, and looked at and learnt and worked with and then left to one side. And both Saturn and Jupiter are giving you an opportunity to go back to that. So that's quite an interesting way to kind of to look at it. Now, Pluto retrograde in your 8th house of Capricorn, this is also giving an opportunity, I feel, to look at how you can change and transform you. Also, how you transform your financial kind of situation that may be connected with another or other people. Because there's very much a sense of this house, I always feel, of change, of beginnings and endings. And it's about, for you, because it's Capricorn, it's like looking for the best way to bring something to a close so that the new can come in whatever area that resonates for you. That's the area that this is affecting. Your 12th house is Taurus, and Uranus has been charging through here, causing mayhem and disruption to the inner you, making you not sure what you think, what you feel, who are you? How are you? And it's going retrograde from the 20th. I think this will actually give you a little bit of respite. And maybe it's actually going to give you some kind of almost eureka or aha moments when you realize certain things about you and your psyche that perhaps you've not really been aware of before. So it could be actually quite positive for you to have this. Interestingly, for the first 10 days of the month, approximately, the Sun and Mercury that are in Leo, in the area of your chart that's connected with communication, are making a kind of hard square to Uranus in this part of your chart that's connected with the inner you. I think this is actually about you having having a need, a necessary need, to have a good inner talk with you, to communicate how you feel to you, but also maybe finding someone else that you can talk to about feelings that you find quite difficult to navigate on your own. So just bear that in mind, because the Sun is about you and your soul and your health. So if your sort of psychological well-being has struggled a bit through the last few months for whatever reasons of events that may be going on in your life, I think these energies are giving you an opportunity to look at that and, you know, seek outside help if you need it, Gemini. The new moon this month is also in this part of your chart connected with communication. So it's Leo and it's on the 8th. So you are being given an opportunity to make a new start, to just see things in a new way, to, you know, Leo's such a rich sign. It's so creative. I think, you know, if you found some sort of creative ways to work with the inner you through maybe workshops or self-help books, it would really benefit you greatly, Gemini. The full moon this month is a blue moon. Now, that's pretty fortunate. And it's the full sturgeon moon. It's on the 22nd in Aquarius, which is also that part of your chart which is connected with travel. So it's conjunct retrograde Jupiter. I think there's an opportunity comes up to do a journey which maybe has had a bit of stop-start to it and you're not sure whether you're doing it or not. And this is something that you need to do. It's a necessary journey. And this full moon, I think, will see an end to the delay. You'll just decide, right, I either do it now or not at all. So I think that's probably what that's about, Gemini. So thank you so much for joining me. I really wish you a great month, and I will see you next time, Gemini. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Cancer. This is for the Sun in Cancer or for the Ascendant. Cancer, how are you faring this month? How are you doing? We have 4 retrograde planets, and 2 of them, that's Saturn and Jupiter, are in Aquarius in the area of your chart, which is the 8th house, which is about transforming situations. It's about joint finances. So what or how is this affecting you? I think you need to think about what is it that just yet hasn't been sorted out in connection with, for example, joint finances or investments or pension plans or inheritances. That's all the sort of areas that this area of the chart can affect. And also, what perhaps do you need to return to give it a little bit more backbone? Is there something in the way that you have organized, you know, a pension, for example, which is a little bit not really set in stone, and you're not really sure what you should be doing or whether you've got it in the right sort of state or not. So these two guys, Saturn and Jupiter, are giving you an opportunity to go back, look at how to structure something which is financial. It could just be joint finances with you and your significant other. And also look at any opportunities that come along, fortunate opportunities, to change things in a beneficial way. So, and that could be something that had come along, has now come back, and now you can look at it again. Your 7th house of significant relationships has still, of course, got Pluto retrograde now in Capricorn. How is this affecting your close one-to-one relationships? Well, if something's needed to leave your life, or someone has needed to leave your life, that is very much one of the things that could be around at the moment for you. And if that's not what it's about, Pluto, you know, can also, it can bring such big changes to do with relationships and change them in ways that you had never envisaged. And that's not necessarily bad. So, you know, often we hear change and we think, oh, it's going to be something bad. No, not necessarily. It can be something really fortunate. So I think there are changes that need to happen in close relationships to get them into a state where it is better for everybody concerned. So just bear that in mind whilst Pluto goes through this current retrograde phase. Your 9th house of higher learning and travel is Pisces, and Neptune is also retrograde in this part of your chart. So the first thing that came into my mind is that the sea and water is actually perhaps at the moment really important to you. Maybe you're not sure whether you should go somewhere and be by the sea. If you've got a yearning to be near the water or travel to the water, do it. If you're not sure that it's the right thing to travel, you know, because Neptune can bring in doubts and fears and kind of just sort of illusion around these things, then just feel what your gut's saying. If your gut feeling, your intuition is saying, I really need to be near water, on the water at the moment, then follow that feeling. Meanwhile, up in your 11th house, Taurus, the area of your chart connected with your hopes and wishes, we have Uranus, who will be going retrograde on the 20th. Now, Uranus is making, for the first roughly 10 days of the month, a square angle to the Sun and Mercury in Leo in your 2nd house. Now, what this means is you have plans and ideas that you want to get going. And there is something that keeps getting in the way of, it's always some unexpected kind of issue that comes up, possibly financial, something financial that just, things are more expensive than you expected. Suddenly you find, whereas you'd have budgeted for a certain way of it, of something manifesting, suddenly it's doubled in price. And, you know, this is quite difficult for anyone anyway, let alone Cancerians who, you know, really get very sensitive about these things. And I just feel that there needs to be some healthy discussion. If you have some healthy discussion with somebody who understands these things perhaps a bit better than you, you know, if it is something to do with finance, with setting up a project, then talk to a financial advisor, get some help, or go to your bank and ask them if they can give you some guidance on the best way to move forward. The new moon this month is also in your 2nd house, which is Leo, and this is on the 8th. And this, I think, with regard to what I've just been saying about something you want to get going, something you want to get the finances all tweaked about. This new moon is giving you a bit of a green light. So if the green light hadn't been there, this should bring it, certainly in the couple of weeks following the 8th when the new moon is. The full moon this month is a blue moon. How cool is that? I think that's quite lucky. And it's a sturgeon moon. It's on the 22nd and it's in Aquarius, which is your 8th house again, which is where we've got retrograde Saturn and Jupiter. Now this full moon is conjunct retrograde Jupiter. So if you just wind back a few minutes to when I was talking at the beginning and talking about joint finances and trying to get them sorted out, this full moon sees something coming to completion, to fruition, and you can close that book because you get it sorted. It might be a bit challenging, but certainly the energy leading up to the first few days of that full moon, so that's just leading up to the 22nd, and the couple of weeks beyond the 22nd, you should see some definite results around that. So thank you, Cancer, for joining me, and have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next time. Hi, Leo. This is for the Sun in Leo or for the Ascendant. The 7th house. This is the area of your chart connected with your close one-to-one relationships. And it's Aquarius. And currently we have both Saturn that constricts and stabilizes, and in the 7th house actually could bring in something long-term, or certainly cement something long-term, somebody that's perhaps not been in your life very long. And Jupiter has popped back into Aquarius. So with both of these two in their retrograde motion, how is this going to be affecting your close one-to-one relationships? Well, certainly my feeling is that if relationships have been a bit stuck, then this helps you to go back and just go over some old ground so that you can reconnect and make a relationship in a much more stable way. So it's bringing an opportunity. Jupiter will bring opportunities to, in a sense, repair perhaps relationships that have been damaged. Also, I think Jupiter going backwards into Aquarius could bring somebody back into your life. So it may be somebody who was there, who left, who's now coming back. And there's an opportunity through this retrograde phase, certainly over the next 2 to 3 months, to reconnect with this person to see if it has any mileage. So that could be interesting for any single Leos out there. Pluto is currently retrograde in Capricorn in your 6th house. Now, the 6th house is the house of service. It's also about our day-to-day routine. Now, when Saturn was there, I think you did quite well, Leo, to organise and get in place a good working routine. But now Pluto is just on its own there and it's retrograde. I feel you may have just lost sight a bit of, you know, what you had set in place that really worked quite well. So Pluto going backwards, I think, is just kind of making you realize you need to transform it and tweak it and get back on that kind of good routine for you, that good track, that healthy track, because it may be that you've let some health regimes just go by the wayside. So really Pluto is saying, don't let that happen. You really need to keep your eye on the ball with that, Leo. Now, Uranus, of course, is in your 10th house of career and your sort of public image. And this is Taurus. Now, Uranus is going retrograde on the 20th. So this is going to give you an opportunity to just go back over some of the ground that you've already covered, Leo, with the business, the new projects that you've got going for you in your career and your business life. And there could be some twists and turns and unexpected developments. Maybe something comes back, an opportunity that kind of never came to anything. So you get an opportunity to do something which is really quite surprising. So that could be very interesting. Neptune in Pisces is retrograde in your 8th house of transformation and beginnings and endings. For me, this is, you know, you've had this going on now for quite a few years. And I think in some ways, actually, Neptune in this area of your chart has enabled you, Leo, to really develop that kind of intuitive, psychic side of yourself. And my feeling is you're just going to get a little bit more of that. I think you're really going to sense how your intuition is absolutely spot on. The new moon is in Leo, your sign, in your 1st house on the 8th. How cool is that, Leo? I think it's terrific, because this is giving you an opportunity to shine as actually only Leo can shine, because Leo, of course, does love to be centre stage, does love to perform, and I think you're going to get your chance to shine a bit with this Leo new moon. So that, as I say, is on the 8th. And on the 22nd, we have the full Sturgeon moon, and it's a blue moon on the 22nd in Aquarius, and it's your 7th house of significant relationships. It's going to be conjunct retrograde Jupiter. So I think either you decide to end something, or you decide something is just not worth pursuing, and that's it, closure. But I think you'll be okay about that, whatever it is. It could also be that this sort of new person that maybe you knew that's come back into your life becomes something quite significant, because, you know, full moons are about change in many ways, and a full moon conjunct Jupiter brings opportunity of change. So some interesting dynamics there for you, Leo, this month. When I do the new moon and the full moon lives on Facebook, then I will go into both these lunar events in a much deeper way. And I think they could be quite interesting. So thank you, Leo, for joining me for this part of the video. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Hi, Virgo. So this is for the Sun in Virgo or for the Ascendant. Okay, Virgo, how is your routine? Is it serving you well? Do you need to change it a little bit? Because I say this because Jupiter and Saturn that have been moving through this part of your chart for some time are retrograde at the moment. Now, Jupiter did move out into your 7th house for a little while, and you had the experience of how that's going to benefit your close one-to-one relationships. But Jupiter has now slipped back into Aquarius in this 6th house area. And I just think, you see, Saturn is giving you an opportunity through Jupiter to really set in place a good working routine. Now, even if you don't work, it's about having a routine that suits you, even if you're, you know, whatever you're doing. Because I think humans, on the whole, we need some sort of routine to go through the day, and everything is a bit random and all over the place, doesn't really actually suit or serve any of us particularly well. We need some kind of order and system to the way our life pans out daily. So Saturn and Jupiter retrograde are just giving you that chance to go back and see how you need to sort those out in a better way. Also, they're giving you a chance, if there are any health aspects that you've kind of, oh, it'll go away, or, oh, it's fine, it's nothing. This energy really is about, this is giving you a chance to go back and say, maybe I do actually need to go and make that doctor's appointment to just see what this is all about, to put my mind at rest. So let's see what else is going on, because we've got in your 5th house of creativity and play and music, dancing, you know, singing, acting, we've got Pluto in Capricorn. Now, Pluto is also retrograde here. So we have this huge amount of retrograde activity this month, which in many ways kind of suits the summer atmosphere. It's a chance up here in the Northern Hemisphere for us to relax a bit and to sit back and see how things are going. And for me, this Pluto in the 5th for you is really giving you a chance to go back and just look at something you've been working on. This is like a project which you know could transform the way people perhaps see something. And you need to just kind of do a little bit of more tweaking to it to get it to a stage where it's ready to be launched. And we can't forget that you've, of course, still got Neptune in your 7th house of Pisces, also retrograde. So, you know, this feels quite nice to me. I think if you've got some sort of romantic dreams and just kind of a sense of something that you could dream into existence, manifest into existence, for me, somehow, Neptune is giving you that kind of cushioning that you could, you know, carry on dreaming, Virgo. We never know what happens when we actually put our attention on something and kind of know that we can manifest it if we really want to. Now, your 9th house of travel and higher learning has got, of course, Uranus in Taurus there. And for the first few days, it's going to be squaring the Sun and Mercury in Leo, and that's your 12th house. Now, Uranus in Taurus goes retrograde on the 20th. So let's just see what this is all about. I think partly this is about an inner need for you to do some more research and learning and understanding of something that not only would blow your mind, but could blow other people's minds in a way. And this retrograde motion that we have, and Mercury cozying up to the Sun in Leo in your 12th, for me is really saying, you know, look deeply into yourself as to how you can actually use that kind of really kind of disruptive energy of Uranus in your 9th to upturn the way people think. Interesting for Virgo. It'd be interesting to see how that pans out for you, Virgo. The new moon is also in your 12th house of Leo, and that's on the 8th. So I think this will give you a boost to the inner you, that you will start to feel much more confident, and that actually where you might have felt a little bit reluctant to shine and show the wonderful personality that you are, Virgo, that this will actually help that come out more. The full moon this month is a full sturgeon moon, and it's a blue moon, and it's on the 22nd. It's in Aquarius, again in your 6th house. So this, of course, as I said a bit earlier, is that area of your chart connected with your day-to-day routine, your health and service to others. This full moon is conjunct retrograde Jupiter. So I think it's giving you a chance to decide once and for all where you're moving forward with something you've been working on, some perhaps sort of routine job or something you've been doing. Do you want to continue it or not? It might be you're doing something on a part-time basis. Do I want to still do this, or is it actually preventing me doing what I really want to do? So you'll know what area of your life that is really affecting, but that, I think, is what this full moon is about. It may bring much needed closure to an area of your life that doesn't really serve where you want to move forward to in the right way anymore. Okay, Virgo, well, thank you so much for joining me today for your August horoscope. So I'll see you next time. Hi, Libra. So this is for the Sun in Libra or for the Ascendant. So, Libra, have things shifted a bit for you? Has everything just kind of changed slightly so that you have a little bit more freedom? Because I'm looking at your 5th house, Aquarius, which is the area of your chart connected with play, amongst other things, and projects and fun. And with Saturn and Jupiter, who has arrived back in your 5th house to sprinkle a little bit of fairy dust, I just think because they're both retrograde, it's actually bringing back into your life a little bit more fun, some different things, perhaps different people, old friends, people that you've known for some time but perhaps haven't connected with for some time. And it just looks as if it's given you a really good new lease of life. Pluto in Capricorn is also retrograde. Now, this is the part of your chart that's connected with the home and family. So I don't think there's anything particularly significant to highlight about this, other than perhaps reconnecting with family members. That may be something that's on the cards, you know, especially with the fact that so many people have been kept separate over the last few months. Then retrograde Pluto could bring some transforming changes into your relationships with family. Now, Neptune is also retrograde in your 6th house, which is Pisces. This is the house which is about day-to-day routine, service to others, and also health. Neptune for me here, for you at the moment, shows me that, especially because it's retrograde, that you may struggle at times with not always seeing things clearly, that it's not exactly confusion in the sense that there's something wrong with you that you're confused, but that there's a sense of frustration for you, that you're not easily able sometimes to really sense that gut intuitive side of you, that you get too cerebral with it, and you need to try and take a step back, Libra, so that you allow that intuitive kind of knowledge that we all have access to come through. And retrograde Neptune is giving you that kind of, it's inviting you into looking at that. Now, Uranus, our planet of the unexpected and surprise, of course, is in Taurus in your 8th house. Now, this, as we know, is the area of your chart connected with investments, income from other things. It could be income from properties if you've got a property you rent out. It's also the area of your chart that is sort of connected with joint finances. So it can also be inheritance. There's a whole area that it can cover, and because it's Taurus, then it really does kind of bring that flavor of finance into this equation of the 8th house energy. But it's also, because it's retrograde, I think it's going to bring some issues back, you know, perhaps unexpected events happening with, you know, joint finances that you're going to have to deal with, especially possibly during the first 10 days of the month, when both the Sun and Mercury in Leo in your 11th house you could be getting news about something that is to do with sort of groups of people, or, you know, maybe it's tenants in a property that you just have to deal with. So that could be some of the energy that is around that. The new moon is also in the 11th house of hopes and wishes and dreams, and it's on the 8th. So that will actually give you an opportunity to bring some new ways of working into projects that you've sort of perhaps had on the back burner a bit. Now, the full moon this month is in Aquarius, and this, of course, is the area of your chart, the 5th house, where Saturn and Jupiter are retrograde, connected with fun and play. Also, it can be the house of children, and it's creativity. And it's a full sturgeon moon, and it's a blue moon. And blue moons, I always think, are lucky. And these happen when you get 2 full moons in the same zodiac sign, which what that means is one will have to have been at the very beginning of that sign. In this instance, it's Aquarius, so it needs to be at 0 or 1 degree. And then the full moon that comes at the end of the sign needs to be at 28 or 29. So it's conjunct Jupiter that's retrograde. I think this is very fortunate for you. I think a fortunate opportunity connected with something you're quite passionate about, something that is creative, that's going to bring some fun. And I think it may even bring something you want to celebrate. So all looking quite interesting. Just watch out for that Uranus in the 8th and just be patient with it, and don't make any knee-jerk decisions. You know, this is a time for us to be mindful and bide our time. This is a time for responding to situations, especially anything that's connected with finances, because that retrograde Uranus is going to be a bit tricky with the kind of general kind of economic climate in the world. And it is going to be a little bit volatile, certainly while we've got that retrograde Uranus. So thank you so much for joining me, Libra. I look forward to seeing you next time. Hi, Scorpio. So this is for the Sun in Scorpio, or for the Ascendant. So let's see how all these retrograde planets are going to be affecting you this month. First of all, we look at what's going on at home, because if that's been a little bit disruptive and you've been trying to get some kind of structure into it, I think you're going to get a chance now with the retrograde planets of Saturn and Jupiter in this part of your chart, just slowing things down a bit and kind of making it a little bit easier for you to get your house in order. And you could get some unexpected visitors as well. That's always a possibility. And with Pluto still retrograde in Capricorn, in your 3rd house of communication, then somewhere it feels as if you're being given another chance to get your point across with regard to an area of your work that you would like to transform. So you may be making some decisions about whether to go forward with a certain path that you've embarked on with your kind of work, or whether it's not really going to be for you and to just let it go. Now, Neptune in Pisces in your 5th house is also retrograde. And Neptune, of course, is our planet of dreams, illusion, mystery, deception, amongst other things. It can also be intuition. It can be even psychic kind of sense and feeling about things. And with it retrograde here, I'm just wondering if something is returning that you've had a psychic feeling about, or an intuitive feeling about something or someone coming back into your life. And there's a little bit of kind of not quite, there's no clarity about this particular situation. If it's someone who's interested in you, or even you're interested in romantically, I think you have to be mindful of whether this just actually stirs up a kind of a hornet's nest that you don't really need stirred up. So just bear that in mind, Scorpio, because remember you've got Uranus in your 7th house, Taurus. And Uranus is going to be bringing so many disruptions and upheavals and unexpected events in that part of your chart over the next few years, that to try and steer a steady course through that 5th house where Neptune is in Pisces, you need to really kind of have all your wits about you. Now, for the first 10 days of the month, Uranus is making a square aspect. That's a hard aspect, challenging aspect to both Mercury and the Sun. And they are in Leo, in your 10th house. And that's the part of your chart to do with your work and your kind of public image and how you want to be seen in the world with regard to your career. So there could be some kind of choice words that get aired between you and a close relationship. And maybe they're feeling a little bit fed up that perhaps your work keeps you too far away from them. And so maybe this is something about getting some kind of work-life balance for you, Scorpio. The new moon is also, of course, in Leo, in this area of your chart, the 10th house for career, on the 8th. And that is going to bring a new opportunity. It may be a new opportunity for something to do with work. You might get offered something unexpectedly, which could be quite interesting and quite good for you. And we've got to remember that Uranus, again, is going to be going retrograde on the 20th in your 7th house, the house of significant relationships. So this is going to be possibly bringing something back into your life that you thought had gone, someone, or it could bring situations back which are related to the past, and you're quite surprised that they erupt again in the way they do. So could be a little bit challenging, that Uranus in your 7th house. But it's not all bad, and it's not going to be all difficult, because we do have a lovely full sturgeon moon in Aquarius on the 22nd. And this is in your house of home. So it's the 4th house Aquarius for you. It's a blue moon. So I think this is very fortunate for where you're living. And you may be deciding, some Scorpios, to make changes to your home. It may be that you decide to move. It could also be that family members, make some changes, or perhaps somebody younger decides to leave and start out on their own. This full moon is conjunct retrograde Jupiter. And so it's certainly going to be a fortunate full moon, this one. So don't worry what's happening at home. Even if it seems a little bit tricky, it'll all work out. So thank you, Scorpio, for joining me. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Hi, Sagittarius. So this is for the Sun in Sagittarius, or for the Ascendant. Let's see how the retrograde planets this month are going to affect you. So with both Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, which is the area of your chart connected with communication, then I think it's just that there's going to be a little bit of a kind of a breathing space. So you're not going to be as frantically busy as perhaps you have been over the last few months. I also think these guys sitting in this part of your chart whilst they're in this retrograde motion, are going to give you a chance to do a few more kind of journeys and, you know, go out visiting and seeing friends and connecting more than perhaps you've been able to because of all the reasons we know about, and maybe other reasons too. So I think it's just going to give you a little bit of a chance to slow down and take a breather. And with Pluto, of course, retrograde still in Capricorn in your second house, really Pluto there, I think, is just giving some weight and substance to your financial state. And you will have the attitude that if there are things that you need to change or transform or alter, I think it'll make you quite, in markets, they talk about being bullish and bearish. And I think Pluto here is going to make you quite bullish. And with its retrograde phase, it may be that you're looking at ways that you could perhaps reinvest or invest some of your pot of gold and make it go further. And of course, we've got Neptune still in your fourth house, Pisces, and Neptune is now retrograde. And this just brings in a lovely sense of flow to the home. It feels peaceful, calm, as if there's been a point where it's been really super busy, then I think that Neptune is bringing in that kind of coolness of the kind of watery flow to just make things feel a bit more chilled at home. Now the new moon is in Leo and it's on the 8th and it's in your 9th house of travel. So this may be an opportunity. You may decide to book something, to actually book a journey, in spite of all the difficulties and restrictions with travel and needing to have every piece of certificate and paper known to man. But you may decide, now's the time, I'll book something. And also, during this first part of the month, Uranus that's in Taurus in your 6th house of day-to-day routine, service to others, and health, is making a square to the Sun and Mercury in your 9th house, Leo. And that's for approximately the first 10 days. So that new moon comes in the midst of this energy. Now, what does this mean? Well, for me, what it's saying is that you're going to have to look at how you handle the twists and turns and the unexpected developments that come up. So I think it's just that there may be a little bit of that kind of stop-start element, and your daily routine is just going to be constantly changing. And just when you thought, yes, right, got it all set, no, it all changes again. I also think with Uranus here, you just need to be mindful that you don't overdo things, exhaust yourself, and especially on a sort of a psychological level. Really make sure that you take care of yourself psychologically. So also this month we have a full sturgeon moon, which is a blue moon on the 22nd in Aquarius, and it's conjunct retrograde Jupiter. Now this is the area of your chart connected with communication. So this really is going to give you an opportunity, I think, to close some lines of communication that have been troublesome. And I think finally that will end. And also, of course, we mustn't forget that Uranus in your 6th house is going retrograde on the 20th. And that's a few days before the full moon. And this is just really, I think, double emphasizing the fact that I'm saying to you, really be mindful of your psychological well-being. And if you need a little bit of extra support, then seek it. Because for all of us, life has been particularly challenging. over the last 18 months, and it's not going to ease off just yet. So be kind to yourself, Sagittarius, and when you need time out, just switch off all the electronic stuff and chill. Okay, thank you for joining me, Sagittarius, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Hi, Capricorn. This is for the Sun in Capricorn or for the Ascendant. Your second house, Aquarius, of course, is hosting your ruler Saturn, retrograde, and Jupiter, our planet of opportunity. And Jupiter is also retrograde. I think what they're doing is just giving you an opportunity to get your finances in order. If you need to cut back a bit, to be mindful of your budget and just, you know, sometimes Jupiter there can make us over extravagant. So you need to just make sure you have that balance of that Saturn kind of structure and contraction to sort of hold you back a bit from that Jupiter part that is going to want to spend, spend, spend. So also I think what's really super interesting is this Pluto in Capricorn in your first house, which of course you've been hosting for some time now. And Pluto is still going to be there until 2024. Now, what's so super interesting about Pluto here is that because it's a planet that transforms, it is currently retrograde. And I think you'll be going to look back at actually how far you've come, how far you've changed. You may even find people saying to you, gosh, you're just not the person I used to know. And they don't mean that in a bad way. I think it will be, in a sense, in a respectful and an admiring way, because they will have seen how hard you've worked on yourself to become the strong Capricorn that you're meant to be. So having been through the tough time you went through, Capricorn, with both Saturn, Jupiter and Pluto doing a merry dance in this part of your chart, you've just got Pluto there. You're now reaping the reward of all the learning that you've done. Now, Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, and it's in your third house of communication. I feel that you need to really look at what is being said to you and make sure you fully understand what's hidden beneath the lines or behind the lines. What is really being said? Because I think with this Neptune there, especially because it's retrograde, there could be times when you get misleading information coming in. Uranus, of course, you're hosting in your fifth house, Taurus. And this is that part of your house, your chart, where your creative juices have full expression. And I think you've really been surprising a lot of people in that department as well, with, you know, how creative and innovative you can be, Capricorn, and really coming out of you know, this kind of stoic view people have of Capricorns, and just shocking a few people. And the first 10 days sees Uranus making a hard square, which is a challenging aspect, to both Mercury and the Sun in Leo. Now, they're in your eighth house. Now, the eighth house can be to do with other people's money, investments, joint finances. I just think what it's saying is be mindful if you do have joint finances, or you're looking to join something with somebody else, just make sure that you really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Don't, you know, if there are contracts to sign, don't take it at face value. Look at the small print. Read the small print. And also there's a new moon in Leo in the 8th, on the 8th in this part of your chart. And I think that will bring some clarity to whatever this sort of, confusion is represented by that hard square from Uranus to the Sun and Mercury. Now, Uranus also is going retrograde this month, and Uranus is going retrograde in your 5th house of Taurus on the 20th. And it's going to just, I think, probably bring some unexpected visitors back. So perhaps people, it could be sort of a romantic partner or romantic liaison, someone you haven't thought about for some time, or you thought had gone, pops back. So you just might want to be mindful of that. You might welcome them back, or you might not. So there you go. That's just an element of what that could be about. And that element will be around till mid-October. So then our full moon this month is a full sturgeon moon in Aquarius in your house of finance. And it's a blue moon on the 22nd. And it's conjunct retrograde Jupiter. I think this is going to bring a rather lovely opportunity, maybe even a windfall or something. There's a lot about finance going on for you this month. And I think you just got to be careful that don't overspend, because I think there could be some money coming to you and it may be hard-earned cash. So, you may find that you've earned more if you're sort of on a commission basis. You may have earned more than you expected. But the full moon, I think, is seeing some closure to perhaps also one source of income to make way for something else that can come in, which will really reap benefits for you. Okay, Capricorn. So have a great month. And I'll see you next time. Thank you. Hi, Aquarius. This is for the Sun in Aquarius or for the Ascendant. Aquarius, there is so much in your chart at the moment about you, but not just you on the outside, about you on the inside. Are you paying attention to your inner world, your psyche, your soul? Because if not, you're missing such a rich opportunity for inner growth. With both Saturn and Jupiter retrograde in your 1st house of Aquarius, they're giving you wonderful chances to make the changes that somewhere, I think, on a deep level, you need to make. And, with Pluto in Capricorn in your 12th house, Pluto is saying it's time, Aquarius, to, in a sense, leave the past behind, to change that inner you in a way that serves you and everyone else much better. Because somewhere it feels, Aquarius, as if maybe you've been paying lip service to your personal self-development. And this, for me, is saying you can't always do it on your own. Find someone who can actually help you with that. So it's just something to be mindful of, because I really don't want you to miss the opportunities you've got, Aquarius, with Pluto in Capricorn, Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. They really are giving you rich opportunities to grow and to become somebody that you perhaps never thought you could be. So what else is happening? So Neptune, of course, is in your 2nd house of finance. Now, this is the area of your chart, Pisces, where sometimes money flows in and money flows out. And with Neptune there, Sometimes you perhaps choose to not keep your eye on the ball as much as you should with regard to your budget. So for me, Neptune is saying, be mindful, don't let me kind of, you know, cloud the illusion or put you in a state of illusion that you've got more than you've got. So just bear that in mind, Aquarius. Uranus, our planet of the unexpected, is in Taurus. And of course, it's in the area of your chart connected with family and home. And that's, as I said, Taurus. Now, for the first 10 days of the month, Uranus is making a hard square to both Mercury and the Sun, and they are in your 7th house of significant relationships. Please, Aquarius, talk to your other half and don't think all your ideas are the best ones. Just be mindful of that, because there could be some unexpected kind of disputes with this kind of energy around. So to avoid that, take a breather, take a step back and respond. Don't react. So what will help though is the new moon in Leo in your 7th house on the 8th. So that will be a lovely opportunity to heal any rifts where you've all been arguing about where to put mother's vase, or in the bin or on the shelf just when she comes. So just be mindful of that. Now, Uranus, also in your 4th house, is going to go retrograde from the 20th, and that's a few days before this month's full sturgeon moon in Aquarius. So really, this is just giving you an opportunity to go back and make some repairs and perhaps rethink how you want your house and your living space to be, and rethink maybe who you want sharing your living space with. But let's look at this full moon, because it's a blue moon and it's in your sign, of course, Aquarius. It's also conjunct retrograde Jupiter. This, having been through possibly a challenging month, Aquarius, this full moon gives you such a lovely opportunity to make some closure on areas of your life and how you respond or people see you that really don't serve you anymore. This is a beautiful opportunity, this full moon. And it's a blue moon, so it's lucky. So make the best of that. Okay, Aquarius, thank you for joining me. I will see you next time. Hi, Pisces. So this is for the Sun in Pisces or for the Ascendant. Let's look at your 12th house first, Aquarius, because you have both Saturn and Jupiter here, and they are part of this whole group of planets we've got at the moment, these outer planets going retrograde. So how can you use this energy to its best advantage? Because they really are giving you an opportunity here to actually kind of work on your inner self, inner development. That can be so fruitful for you for what could come further in the year. So be mindful of that. And if you haven't been doing or paying much attention to the inner you, to your psyche, your soul, then take the advantage and the opportunity of these guys being there to actually look at ways that you can learn more about you. You know, it might be a great time to go to a therapist or a counselor or a coach and just get a different perspective on who you are and what makes you work. Because, of course, with Neptune in your sign, Pisces, which it rules, which is in your first house, also about you and how people experience you. Sometimes it may be people can't quite get hold of you. They're not quite sure who you are or what your real character is, because I think this energy at the moment is making you kind of, one day you're one thing, one day you're something else, and maybe you're not quite sure who or what you want to be. So Saturn and Jupiter in the 12th are giving you an opportunity to actually go within and really be clear about what and who you are and who you want to be. So let's look also, because we've got Pluto who transforms. Pluto is retrograde in Capricorn, in your 11th house of hopes, wishes, dreams. You have a whole host of ideas, of projects that you would like to launch. And this retrograde Pluto is giving you the heads up and saying, maybe now's the time to do it. You've done the research, you've done the groundwork, so now is the time to actually initiate it, to move forward with those ideas. And we've also, of course, got Uranus, our planet of the unexpected, shock, surprise, in Taurus, in your 3rd house of communication. So you will be getting all sorts of unexpected news, unexpected journeys. It's going retrograde at the end of the month on the 20th. So it also could mean that you're going to be revisiting some old places. If you perhaps, haven't seen friends for a while, you could be reconnecting with those friends in unexpected ways, and perhaps meeting up with people you never even dreamed you would meet up with. The first 10 days, however, Uranus is making a hard square, which is a difficult, challenging aspect, to both the Sun and Mercury in the part of your chart that is to do with your day-to-day routine. So I think there's just going to be unexpected developments that really disrupt your whole routine, maybe unexpected visitors, but I certainly think your normal kind of way of sort of operating and your day-to-day routine is going to get completely disrupted. And you've also got a new moon in this part of your chart on the 8th, so this is Leo. So I think there's going to be a chance also for some perhaps unexpected partying and celebration. So I think that new moon is going to bring in that energy. And Uranus, as we know, is moving retrograde on the 20th. So use that energy again in a productive way to sort out anything. Sometimes there are contracts and papers and forms we have to fill in which are difficult, and you may get something unexpected land on in your in tray that you've got to deal with. So just be mindful and don't overlook it. The full moon this month is a full Sturgeon moon. It's in Aquarius in your 12th house. It's conjunct Jupiter, and it's a blue moon. This is a wonderful opportunity, because it's conjunct retrograde Jupiter, for you to reinvent yourself, to really, you may have felt quite trapped in a kind of, it's like being trapped on a hamster wheel. And, with both Saturn and Jupiter there, it can wear you down a bit, Pisces. But this full moon is showing that there are areas of your life that you can close, you can bring some closure to, which will set you free to move on and really be the beautiful, shining, flexible, wonderful Pisces that you can be. So Thank you so much for joining me, Pisces, and I wish you a lovely month, and I'll see you next time.